okay, I've been tracking this whole Islam thing and not good news here. What do you see happening with ISIS right now?
Well, again, the 6 o'clock news doesn't do its job. We have a media that's lost its teeth. It's a paper tiger. They're in the tank. Everything is a managed agenda, as Chuck Missler would say. Events are carefully kept away from the American people. So Americans, for the most part, are dumbed down. ISIS was started more than likely by the CIA in Jordan. Mm-hmm. They were trained by the CIA, equipped by the CIA to topple Bashar al-Assad. That's what they were originally created for, in my opinion. They went rogue. They looked around and said, well, what do we need to do this for the Americans? The Americans are infidel. They've just equipped us. We'll just take it for us and set up an Islamic caliphate. The dream of pretty much every sect of Muslims is a caliphate. The Shia Muslims in Iran want a caliphate, a Shia caliphate. The Saudis want a Saudi caliphate. ISIS wants an ISIS caliphate. The Muslim Brotherhood wants a Muslim Brotherhood caliphate. They're all trying to vie for a caliphate, and they'll kill each other in the process. They could care less. This is why we see ISIS lining up the Shia on the banks of a river and blowing. Just one guy is picked up or just moved up in the front of a line. He's being held. Another guy's got a revolver. Bam, one shot to the head. They push him into the river. Next guy comes up. Bam, push him into the river. I mean, it's mass execution. They got Shia Muslims lying in a trench, and a guy with an AK-47 just walks by. Boom, like he's shooting pumpkins. From like 5-6 feet away. Just casually pulling the trigger and blowing them all away. Allahu Akbar, God is great. Boom. Allahu Akbar, God is great. Boom. What God are you praying to, pal? What God are you praying to? It's not any God that I know or any God that I want to know, let me tell you. And so that's what we see with ISIS. It's absolute insanity. The Muslim Brotherhood, there's a imam over there, very fiery guy called Higazi, Safwat Higazi. And when Morsi was running on the Muslim Brotherhood ticket, and he was elected and became president of Egypt for a while, and immediately cracked down with Sharia. Everybody went, oh, we're not doing this. We're not going back here. And they overthrew Morsi, and now he's in jail facing execution. It's just so crazy. I can't believe it. But Higazi is in Tahrir Square, and he's yelling and screaming in the microphone like the little Hitler that he really is. And of course, I'll digress for a second. The musical program, the musical portion of the program, this guy stands up, and the words in English are, let's wake the sleep from the eyes of the Jews. Wake the sleep. If you haven't seen it, it's mind-blowing. Wake the sleep from the eyes of the Jews. I mean, that's the song. And then, Safwat Higazi stands up, and he's yelling and screaming, and he's going, the capital of the newly created United Arab States will not be Mecca and Medina. That's what he says. Not Mecca or Medina or anywhere else. And then he pauses. He says, I say it loud from the Delta, from Egypt, so everyone can hear. The capital of the United Arab States, the capital of the United Arab States will be Al-Quds. And Al-Quds is Jerusalem. They never say Jerusalem. That's the Jewish word for it. So Jerusalem is always Al-Quds. And then tens of thousands of people begin to chant in Arabic, to Jerusalem we go, martyrs in the millions. I'm not making this up. I've posted it on my blog numerous times. I've shown it at conferences. People just sit there. They're stunned. And it begs the question, Daniel, why the heck hasn't our media done due diligence and shown that clip to the American people? Shame on them for not doing it. Shame on them. That's the face of Islam. That's what's going on in the Middle East. Wake the sleep from the eyes of the Jews. To Jerusalem we go, martyrs in the middle. There was martyrs in the millions. There was a banner that was unfolded when Morsi was president. So the Muslim Brotherhood has gone back down underground because they got deposed very quickly. And the banner was unfurled at a soccer game. You know what that banner said? One nation under a new Holocaust. I'm not making this stuff up. And then you get a clown like John Swiftboat Kerry. With all due respect, Mr. Kerry, Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, you have no clue. Because if you had any clue as to what's going on, you never would have made the Iranian deal, unless you want to wipe Israel off the map. Unless you're in league with these clowns. Because as Bibi Netanyahu says, this is the worst deal that's ever come down the pike. And the Iranians, just today they talked about the idea that the Iranians have a ballistic missile. So what's next? EMP, which I've been writing about for basically years now, because that's what the Iranians want to do. We're the great Satan. America is the great Satan. Israel will be wiped out. See what they don't. This is what amazes me.
That's true. You know, they do. They call America the big Satan.
The great Satan.
Israel's like the little Satan.
Israel's the little Satan. And Khomeini has said that by the year 2022, which is, you know what, a few years from now, right? A few years from now, Israel will cease to exist. Well, that means if that's the little Satan, they're not telling us what's going to happen to the big Satan. They're going to try to take us out. They are. They're going to try to take us out, and they'll do it through an EMP. They're not stupid. They're brilliant, actually, but they're not stupid. Now, and that's my greatest fear.
You talk about EMPs in your DVD.
Yeah.
And okay, so average American says there's no way a ballistic missile is going to actually get enough time to get over our borders and hit an infrastructure point like an electric power grid. Okay, how do you respond to that?
They don't know what you're talking about. It's very easy, and I'm sure the Iranians will do something like this. You take an oil tanker and you retrofit it. It becomes a missile launcher. And you just sail leisurely down the strait, out the Strait of Hormuz. And, you know, you can go across the Panama Canal or go across however you want to get here. But you park that puppy 200 miles in international water off the Gulf of Mexico, and then you launch it. And, you know, it's in international waters, and we are so dumbed down that unless someone was really on the ball and looked at that launch and immediately scrambled another missile to take it down, you're toast. Because that's an ICBM. That's an intercontinental ballistic missile. That's a ballistic missile which is going to go up very quickly. It's going to reach 200 miles in the atmosphere. And when it reaches that point, it will detonate its payload, which is just a small nuclear device, which will then set out an electromagnetic pulse, which will short circuit all of the electrical items that we know. Telephones won't work, TVs, toasters, microwaves, your car won't start. If it's wintertime, the heat goes down, everything. Life as we know it, it's over. No refrigeration, nothing. No fans, nothing. No internet, nothing. We're back to pre-industrial revolution times. We're back around 1855, where there are, you know, the horse and buggy, that's how you get around. And that's it. And there was a bill that was floated in front of Congress several years back. It would have cost us, you know, probably $500 million to upgrade the grid and make it so if something happened, we could get the grid back up and running in 2 weeks instead of 2 or 3 years. They voted it down. They voted it down. Okay. The idiots in Washington voted it down.
Now, speaking of threats, because this is one, and you bring it up, you know, this is... Everyone came against Trump, right? The moment that he began to address border issues 3 months ago. I mean, it was like...
Can't have that.
Well, he's a criminal. And, all right. There are some issues going on at the border of the U.S., and you do also address this in your research and findings and all that. Can you talk about what's going on down there from your perspective?
Well, you might remember when 9/11 happened, we're going to close the southern border. That's what he told us. Last time I checked, the border was porous. And the border people down there are hampered because of the Obama administration. In fact, thousands come across illegally all the time. What's great about Trump, and let's just turn the tables before we get to the Donald. Why don't we let's do an experiment, okay? Let's just get 3,000 random Americans. We'll just pack them in our vehicles, and we'll just go down to Mexico and say, hey, we're here. We want amnesty. Hey, we're here. Feed us. Give us free stuff. Can we go on welfare? We'll pick your lettuce. Come on. What do you say? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The tables would be turned in about 3 seconds. You'd be deported. You'd be jailed. But the Mexicans and the Mexican government, which, by the way, Mexico, the Constitution is actually half the control of Mexico is controlled by the Vatican. Most people don't know that. Isn't that interesting? So Mexico is one of the poorest countries on the planet. It's kept in abject poverty all the time. But I digress. The bottom line is bully for the Donald. This should have been done under the Bush administration, but because W is just as much of a weasel as everybody else in Washington, nothing ever gets done. They can't even complete a stinking fence to keep the illegals out. Bully for the Donald. God bless the man, because that's what we need. You can't have millions and millions and millions of illegals into the country. It will change the cultural fabric, just like what's going on in Europe. And I think it was the minister or the president of Austria stood up and said, Islam has never been part of Europe. Oh, wait, whoa, wait a minute now. That's politically incorrect. You can't say that. This is multi-culti all the way. Nonsense. The man knows of what he speaks. Islam has never been part of Europe, ever, period. They were stopped by Charles Martel, Battle of Tours. They were stopped at the gates of Vienna. That's why it was at one time a Christian country or a Christian continent. No longer. It's now a mission field. So, now he's stating the obvious. We can't let millions and millions and millions of people from South America up through and into this country illegally. You can't do it. We've already done it. No one's got the guts to stop it. And the moment someone says, you get guys like Geraldo Rivera, oh my gosh, blah blah. Wait a minute, Geraldo. Wait. Let's just turn the tables. We'll just take 500 and we'll go down to El Salvador tomorrow. How does that sound? And we'll just set up camp and say, feed us, give us free stuff, let us come in welfare. Hey, can we use your medical system too? Let's just see what happens. But somehow in America, we're supposed to take everybody in here. Look, immigration is filled with red tape, and it needs to get cleaned up. It needs to get streamlined so people that want to come into the country and want to come in legally can do so. There's so much red tape that it's almost impossible to get in. It really is very, very difficult, and I understand that. And they also should ban anyone from a Middle Eastern country which harbors or sponsors an anti-Israel ideology or harbors or sponsors terrorism. Period. Doesn't matter. I don't care what you're studying or what you want to come over and study here. Go study in your own stinking country. You don't come in the United States of America if you are from a country which sponsors or harbors or trains any terrorist, like Saudi Arabia. Hello? But, we don't do that because the Saudis basically pay everybody off, and so here we are. So, look, there's a lot wrong, and that's what's great about Donald. The other thing he said, which was just incredible, he said, day one, get rid of the gangs. I can't even believe he's saying it, because finally he's addressing what every American knows is a rising problem in all of our cities. The rise of MS-13, the rise of these violent, brutal gangs. I mean, they're unbelievable.
Right,
and the Donald says,
problem.
Yeah, the Donald says, from day one, we go after the gangs. Hallelujah. I love the guy. I love him. I think he's great.
Okay. You mentioned false Christ a little bit ago, and, but you were kind of just giving a brief overview as you were introducing why. Like, okay, this is all that's going on, which is why I'm thinking this passage in the Bible is talking about now, not 2,000 years ago. Well, what are some more details you can give us about false Christ's present day?
There's a guy in Russia. He's called the Russian Messiah. He's got thousands of followers. He looks like, he's got the long hair and the beard and the robes, and and everybody they sing songs to this guy. They believe that he's the second coming. He was a traffic cop, and one day he realized he was the son of God. It's amazing how it happens, isn't it? And now he's got thousands and thousands of people that follow him. And in Russia, there's a commune where all these people gather, and it's just the video I show of this guy, people just sit there and they can't even believe it. I mean, they can't even believe what they're looking at. But there it is. Then you got this guy from Illinois or Ohio, someplace. I'm not sure where he is. He came on the scene a while back. He's really faded. His name is Rael, R-A-E-L. And he comes riding in a Knights Templar outfit. He's got long black hair, you know, and on this white horse, and he's supposed to be the second coming. And I actually had communication with him to try to get an interview. And I was told that Rael is not taking any interviews, but he's familiar with your work and generally pleased with your scholarship. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up.
That's a very interesting response to an interview request from Rael.
It's just unbelievable. You've got Benjamin Cram, who's been saying for years, since 1982, that the Christ is now here, Messiah is now here, Maitreya. I've been keeping a close eye on him. And every now and then he ups his ante. A few years back, he was saying that the reemergence of the Bethlehem Star was going to be seen, and that the Bethlehem Star 2,000 years ago was nothing more than a giant UFO mothership. And so people were seeing it, and he's got pictures all over his website. So I keep track of all this stuff and write about it. You know, you can't make this stuff up, Dan. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's where we are in 2015. And, you know, we're only scratching the surface of what's in the DVD, what's in the book, Days of Chaos. You know, folks, you need to understand, because Yeshua tells us, he says, when you see these things begin to happen, don't cower, don't be afraid, don't build a bomb shelter, look up, because your redemption is coming. I'm coming back for you at some point. And like Dan says, we can argue, you know, whether it's pre, mid, or post all day long. It doesn't matter. You know, I have my position. Dan, you've got yours. The bottom line is we are in the days of chaos. Something is coming. Something's already here. It's not good. You know, we didn't even touch on it. I know we don't have time for it. I'm looking at the clock. The whole burgeoning UFO phenomenon, which is not going away. I mean, what happens?
We can get into it.
Yeah. What happens if this closure is like not one ship, not two ships, but hundreds of ships appearing all over the skies at the same time? Whoa. You want to talk about a global paradigm shift? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It'll happen in a twinkling of an eye, literally. So, you know, we start talking about this stuff, and it's just incredibly alarming.
Well, I think that there's been a lot of prepping. I mean, the whole alien gospel, the idea that salvation is coming from the skies above, that's been pervading culture, especially in the United States now. And there's been a ramp up of that for sure. And I mean, with what I'm dealing with now, I mean, we have guests all the time, people that are coming out of the highest levels of the occult world and talking about their experiences on this program with various groups, and it's just like right in your face. There it is, you know. And they have a very evil, wicked agenda. Everyone's not lying, and it has, I mean, ramifications, I think, that are eschatological. In other words, they have a plan to promote a new world order agenda. They're actually part of that. Let me ask you a question. How do you see, and you know, I have my own ideas on this, but I want to know what your ideas are. How do you see the whole UFO thing, some of these various groups people report, reptilians, grays, Nordics, so on and so forth, playing into a Luciferian new world order? Where do you see that kind of coming together?
Well, the Ancient Alien series, I think they're in season 8 or 9. I've lost track. But, you know, they promulgate the ancient astronaut theory every Friday night. And they've got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of viewers and followers that believe that we were actually created here by E.T. There's another guy called Rael, another, you know, false messiah, who's telling people that he and Jesus were brothers. They were sired by the Elohim. I mean, this guy's talking about the Jews need to move out of Israel. That's what they need to do. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's going on. But Rael, this guy, not Rael, Rael. Rael is the former race car driver, Claude Varlohorn, who had a UFO encounter. And he believes, like many of the evolutionists, that we were seeded here, created here by a group of extraterrestrials, and that they are going to return at some point very soon. This is promulgated, this idea of panspermia, that we were seeded here by a race of extraterrestrials, is basically the theme of the Ancient Astronaut show, Ancient Aliens, on the History Channel. This is why I've written 9 books on the subject, you know, either on the subject or around the subject. There's a whole 3 chapters here in the Days of Chaos about the UFO phenomena, the coming great deception and the messengers of deception. Chapter 17, the great falling away. All this deals with the burgeoning UFO phenomenon, and how at some point I believe that when they show up, it's a game changer. I believe, and I realize this is a controversial piece of scripture. Second Thessalonians says that the son of perdition, the Antichrist, will not be revealed until the apostasy happens. Some people believe that that's the rapture. I do not hold that view. I think if it was a rapture, he would have used another view, another word other than apostasy. I mean, yes, apostasy can mean departure, but in context of departure, like apostasy, leaving the faith, turning from the faith, departing from something, that's what apostasy is.
Yep.
And I think that what would cause the apostasy would be the unveiling of the UFO presence, the extraterrestrial presence. And when it happens, look, when it happens, man, everything changes. And there's too many sightings now, Dan. It's off the charts. We believe that the hybrids are beginning to manifest. We're starting to get people who are telling us tales about that, and that's not going away. So I think it's sooner than later. I really do.
Well, and you know, I think it's almost like a sliding scale. It's like, you know, it starts at 1, but then it goes to 10.
Yeah.
And along you actually have incremental numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like there is an increase, because I'm getting, you should see what I get in my email, brother. I mean, oh wow. And I mean, it's like, yeah, people are already having these beings appearing to them. They're dealing with them. They're having, you know, all kinds of relations with them, including sexual. I mean, it's like, and I'm getting the emails about it, like right now, like last year. And it's like, okay, I mean, while you have part of the public that's saying, oh, this is crazy, and everyone that talks about it is crazy, you have this whole other part of the public that's like, we're already experiencing it. It is already manifesting in our backyard, literally in our homes. And, you know, where do we get answers? And the problem is, all the answers are coming from the New Agers that are telling, well, yeah, you can channel them and do all kinds of things with these guys. And there's this huge vacuum in the body of Christ for answers, which is one of the biggest problems I'm running into, because it's like, we can't answer everyone's questions. We just don't have time. Praise God that not every Christian minister and leader and person in the body of Christ is afraid to touch this, like yourself. And, you know, but there it is.
Well, look, something is coming. And I've lectured on this. I've written on it and incessantly and continue to do so.
Yes.
Genesis 3 states that the seed of the serpent will be at enmity with the seed of the woman. That's a seed war. There's no way around that. The seed of a serpent, Satan, will be at enmity, at war with the seed of the woman. The seed of the woman produces Messiah. We know that. That's already happened. The seed of a serpent, and this is why the Antichrist doesn't become the Antichrist. You know, he doesn't go to Antichrist school and, you know, Eddie, you're doing a really good job. We think that you're going to be it doesn't work that way. The Antichrist literally is the seed of the fallen cherub.
Yes.
I believe. That's my take on it. And I'm stuck with it.
I believe that as well. You know, it says he's the son of perdition in the book of Second Thessalonians.
There you go. The offspring, the son of perdition, the offspring. And that's what it is. And there's a seed war that's going on. And people would do well to understand that the seed war, that Genesis 3 passage, basically sets up the rest of the biblical narrative. Without Genesis 3, an understanding of Genesis 3, when we get to Genesis 6, we're clueless. When we get to other passages, we become more clueless. And finally, we get to Jesus' words of warning to us, stating it'll be like the days of Noah when I return. We have no idea what he's talking about. And so it's very important to understand Genesis 3, who the Nephilim were, the fact that there is a seed war, that it's been going on, that it hasn't stopped, that it continues. And I'll leave the interview by giving you a story from Pastor Mike McClung, whom I know personally, and have spoken at his church about 3 different times over the years. Mike was out there doing a prayer walk in an area, like a park. And, you know, he's walking along and praying to the Lord. And that's what's so great about doing a prayer walk. I do it on my runs. You know, I wrestle with things, talk, pray, hopefully get an answer, you know, get a word, have a time of worship. It's great. And so he's walking around, and in the distance he sees this woman jogging towards him, running towards him. She's very tall, 6'3", 6'4", striking blondish, whitish hair pulled back in a ponytail, very athletic looking. Now that's, you know, there are women on the planet that look like that. I understand that. But he immediately, in his spirit, he's checked. there's something evil coming to him, and he knows that. He's very unsettled, and he begins to pray against it almost immediately. As she gets about 20 feet away, they make eye contact. She's got very pale blue eyes. As she gets a little closer, her eyes switch, and the pupils go from pale blue to jet black. At that point, Mike is now verbally rebuking her out loud. And as she runs by him, she growls. Now, I'm not making that up.
I know
is that a hybrid, or as Dr. Jacobs now is referring to them, hubreds, a hybrid? That a hybrid still looks somewhat alien. The hubreds can pass, and Jacobs thinks they're already here. Don't know, but that's right from the front lines with Pastor Mike, and he immediately rebuked it, and we keep hearing more and more stuff like this. So I just think that the days are unprecedented, and that people would do well to understand the times in which they're living in, and you can avail yourself of the DVD Watchers 9. It's almost 2 hours long, plus Days of Chaos. You can go to the website, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net, or, Dan, we're trying to get a special deal for your listeners.
Sure.
And, you can talk about that maybe by the time you air the show. We'll have that link up, and you can just use that.